Hello, hello, and welcome to today, which is December 12th, 2022. And I'm trying really hard today to not get um, extremely upset with this whole Brittney Griner situation that's going on because I wasn't going to cover the Brittney Griner situation because I was under the impression that it wasn't controversial, that like she was wrongfully imprisoned in Russia for having like a tiny little itty ass bit of THC in a vape pen, which okay, fine, I guess technically it's illegal in Russia, but suck my nuts. It's stupid that she gets arrested in um in Russia for this, and she's put in jail for 9 years. Like, excuse fucking me. Like, that shit's ridiculous. And I thought that the U.S. doing a prisoner swap to get her out, giving the implications of what it means for Americans traveling to Russia to have her in prison for this. I thought it was not going to be a controversial topic. It was just going to be like, yes, we're glad she's out. Like, good job. Yes, we got a prisoner swap done. Like, I guess you could argue that, like, argue about the quality of the prisoner swap. Like, hey, this person we swapped her for is like potentially dangerous to the United States. Like, I suppose you could say that, even though that is what they said about Mr. Victor Bout, the prisoner that they did exchange for her. But I've been doing some research on the guy. I don't think he's a fucking problem. I really think the United States were just keeping him as a political stunt. Not to say that he was only here for the benefit of America politically, but like other countries wanted him arrested, so America, who was playing ball with the other countries because America could get the extradition charges because we're America. We can get extradition charges from almost every single country. So like, who else in the world community is going to get the extradition charge but the United States? Like, it's incredibly difficult to do that. So if any of our allies are looking to get this guy arrested, they're going to have to go through us. So I think it was politically expedient to arrest the guy. He definitely did some shitty things. I don't think he's particularly dangerous to the United States. So swapping him for Brittney Griner is not a like an overvalued asset being given for an overvalued asset. Brittney Griner is an incredibly public figure now that she has been arrested. It is like a gigantic black mark upon the Russian government and the United States government that this happened. Like, excuse me, you are arresting people for this bullshit, especially Americans who are there to serve your economy. Like, this, she wasn't just a tourist, she was going over there to play basketball. Like, she was making money for the Russian economy to go over there, and they still arrested her. So like, fuck off. But that's not necessarily the thing that gets my goat about this whole situation. It's that I was talking to somebody at work, my day job. Surprisingly, it's not this. About the situation. I walked in on them having a conversation about how Brittney Griner should have been left in Russia because Paul Whelan, who is a Marine veteran, Paul Whelan is still in Russia. Which, okay, first off, none of these people even knew who the fuck Paul Whelan was until somebody decided to like make him a fucking issue. And as a result of them like saying that we should have gotten Paul Whelan out instead of Brittney Griner, it's like you're placing a higher value upon the life of another person simply because of the job that they used to do. Because I told them this. I told them Paul Whelan was not a Marine when he was arrested in Russia. He's just a Marine veteran. And on top of that, he's a Marine veteran that was dishonorably discharged for larceny. He was committing Social Security fraud. And he got dishonorably discharged for this. So like, not only is he not a Marine, but he's not a Marine because he was doing some shady shit. So, like, just having the Marine stamp on your fucking resume doesn't immediately make you worth more than another person. In my opinion, your excuse me, your position, your profession that you do doesn't change the value of your life relative to another person at all. It's the content of your actions in that job. So, like, you just being a Marine does not automatically make you suddenly more valuable than, say, some guy who he's a trash man working for the city. Like, both of those jobs are hard. Like, don't you dare look at me and tell me being a trash man is not hard, right? Both those jobs are hard. One may be arguably harder than the other, but neither of them are easy, particularly desirable positions to be in, and yet they both go and do it, and they both serve ridiculously integral functions to society. The garbage man, arguably more so than the Marine, because the United States hasn't been in a legitimately, like, unambiguously defensive, good war since World War II. Every other war has been some level of political and almost never an actual threat to the United States. So, arguably, the garbage man is doing a greater service to the wider world than the Marine is. So the job doesn't make the person; it's the actions in the job. Now, I don't want this to come off wrong. I do not think that Marines are inherently less, like, their job is not valuable. I do think that the job Marines do is valuable. What I don't think is that just being a Marine makes you suddenly, like, an amazing person. I do not think that. I think your content as a Marine is what makes you great. Now, you can go to a war like Iraq or Afghanistan that is arguably entirely unjustified upon the country that's going there. You can be a U.S. Marine and go to Afghanistan, and you can be there completely unjustified in your position as a country in being there. And the Marine himself can still do heroic actions, can still be a great heroic person when he goes over there. But just being there when the war is not justified does not give you some kind of, like, vaunted status in my mind. You have to earn that. Otherwise, you're on the same level as everybody else, and the value of that life is the value of a life is important no matter who it is. Just period. Brittney Griner doesn't suddenly become, like, you don't leave her in Russia because you would rather have Paul Whelan. No, you try to get them both out, right? And this is what the U.S. government has done. And the argument is that, like, well, we should have got. And the argument that I heard was like, well, we should have got Paul Whelan out instead of Brittney Griner. Like, the Russians aren't, like, a thinking agent of their own. From all accounts that we've gotten, the Russians were not interested in swapping Paul Whelan for Victor Bout, the Russian that we sent back. They were not interested in doing that. They were interested in swapping Victor Bout for Paul Whelan. And just in case anybody thinks that, Paul Whelan, that the United States government doesn't try to get Marines out of Russia, back in April of this year, same administration, the Biden administration, not Trump, not Obama. This year, April of 2022, they got a Marine Corps vet named Trevor Reed out of Russia in a prisoner swap for a Russian fighter pilot whose name is Konstantin Yuroshenko. Pardon my pronunciation. Yuroshenko. So they've already gotten a Marine out of Russia this year. I come across this argument a bunch of times, and it just blows my mind that no details come out on it at all, and people will sit there and argue about the value of a human being's life because somebody said we should have got the Marine out, and they just rolled with it. It's like, what do you want the Obama administration to do in this? The Biden administration to do in this situation? What do you want them to do? Russia is a nuclear power. So like if Russia's not going to negotiate to get Paul Whelan out for Victor Bout, and that's the only playing card that the United States has besides sanctions, which we already put on them, besides helping out helping out other countries in their conflicts with Russia, which we're already doing. The only other option is just to go in with the special forces and try to get Paul Whelan out of whatever prison he's in. And it's like, they're a nuclear power. You can't do that. Like, is one Marine's life worth potentially ending the world? Like, I know we're talking about human lives here, but, I want him out, but not at the expense of everybody else. And these are the consequences that people don't think about. So, let's talk about Victor Bout. And let's talk about the other half of this conversation, which is that Victor Bout is somehow like an incredibly huge danger to the United States. Let's talk about who he is and what he actually does. He is, or did before he got arrested, he is an international arms dealer. He is not an arms dealer that is like getting illegal guns into the United States for one of two reasons. One, that's not the market he plays in. He plays in military level weapons. So he's been accused of getting a hold of like anti-aircraft missiles and war level amounts of guns, not just like sawed off shotguns in the United States. So one, it's not the market he plays in, and two, the United States already has an incredibly, ridiculously robust legal gun industry. You'll notice in America there aren't people running around with RPGs. And the reason they don't run around with RPGs like they do in other countries is because it's really fucking easy to get a gun legally. So there's a very small underground arms market in the United States. It's mostly secondhand. It's somebody buys a gun, it gets stolen, they file off the serial numbers, they sell it on the black market to like gangs and stuff, but it's not RPGs, it's not anti-aircraft missiles, it's not explosives, it's not grenades, it's not mines, right? It's not war level ordnance, and that's what Victor Bout played in, right? And he would coordinate around embargoes, around sanctions on other countries, around any kind of like local laws and stuff like that. And he would get, freedom fighters. He would get separatists in different countries. He would get warlords in Africa. He would get them military level equipment. Okay, so that's what he did, and he is not. Like, he's not, from what I can find out, some like evil genius, or sorry, not evil genius, some evil like villain. He's not some evil villain, just getting guns and sending them all over the world trying to end something. He's just facilitating black market gun sales. It's the exact same thing as the United States selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, except he's just doing it without the approval of other countries. But to be fair, the United States sells weapons to other countries without the approval of other countries. We sell the most advanced fighter jet in the world, the F-35, to countries who are actively committing genocides. Like Saudi Arabia is buying F-35s from the United States. So like, this guy getting some anti-aircraft missiles and sending them to Africa is nothing compared to what the United States does. And he's doing the same thing, except because we're the United States and we're the largest army in the world with the most toys and the greatest amount of money, we can sell it and everybody just shuts up about it. But this guy's doing it on the down low, on the black market, because there are countries that can't get the stuff by buying it from the U.S. because the U.S. won't sell it to them. And as a result, none of the U.S.'s allies will sell it to them. And if they can't get it from Russia and they can't get it from China, they have no choice but to go to the black market. And that's what Victor Bout was. He was just selling military-level arms to countries that didn't have a way to get it otherwise. And he was facilitating an entire underground, logistical network for moving those arms around. And he was so good at it that he helped get arms in and out of Afghanistan for the U.S. This guy was working with the U.S. in the Afghanistan war. So, like, he's not a threat to the United States. He never was a threat. He was just a businessman that didn't play through the normal legal channels, because the normal legal channels for this kind of stuff are walled off behind the gigantic countries that can sell it legally. Legally is just a term that these countries have decided it's okay for them to do it, but it's not okay for him to do it. That's it. That's all it is. Maybe you could say there's some more shady deals going on in the background, but he's not selling anti-aircraft missiles to some country in Africa so that that country in Africa can somehow get a hold of a navy to to ship the anti-aircraft missiles to the United States and stage an invasion. That's not going to happen. And Lord knows we don't need his help making our own guns. So, like, and he's selling secondhand military weapons from other countries. So our only threats militarily to the United States, and it's a big gap between us and them, is like Russia and China. Maybe North Korea, just because they have a lot of people in the army. But, like, that's it. It's just Russia, China, and maybe North Korea could cause us a problem if we decided to invade North Korea. But those are the only military powers that really could even think about putting up any kind of fight against the United States. And the reason they can put up a fight against the United States is because they make their own shit. They don't need him. And Russia is questionable if they could even put up a fight against the United States. The only thing that levels the playing field with us and them is the nuclear threat. So, getting Paul, prioritizing Paul Whelan over Brittney Griner is stupid, because his life is not inherently more valuable than hers, simply because he used to be a Marine, especially a Marine that was dishonorably discharged for Social Security fraud. Like, he's arguably a worse person than Brittney Griner is. And it's also not fair. Oh, we didn't talk about why he got arrested. He got arrested in Russia because Russia accused him of conspiracy. They accused him of getting a digital device, flash drive. They say digital device, but flash drive, with Russian intelligence a list of Russian intelligence operatives on it. Now, whether or not that's true, who knows? But regardless, legally speaking, in Russia, being charged with conspiracy is significantly worse than being charged with a little bit of weed. So, like, just from a legal standpoint, Russia organizing Paul Whelan's release comes with a larger hurdle than it just Brittney Griner. Brittney Griner is just like, you got caught with some weed, go home. But Paul Whelan is like, he's been accused of conspiracy publicly in Russia. So, like, they have to make the case that he should go home. And they're not going to do it for a guy like Victor Bout, because Victor Bout is not useful to Russia, the country. It might be useful to Russia, the institution, like he can help facilitate getting Russian weapons into the hands of countries that Russia would like the weapons to get into. But the country, he's not helpful to. So Russians aren't interested in what this guy has to say or what he does. But they're very interested in Paul Whelan doing conspiracy, because Russians tend to be a pretty proud people. They have a long history of cracking down really hard on perceived conspiracies, real or otherwise. So, legally speaking, Paul Whelan is not even in the same ballpark as Brittney Griner in Russia. Especially not for a guy like Victor Bout. So, Paul Whelan is not, he's not like a better person than Brittney Griner is. And Victor Bout is not particularly dangerous to the United States as a prisoner. So, like, can we all just shut up and agree that getting Brittney Griner out is a good thing? Like, should we still be trying to get Paul Whelan out? Sure, if the United States has evidence that he is definitely, for sure, wrongfully detained in Russia, then yeah, get him out. And if he was part of a conspiracy involving the United States while he was over in Russia, then it's the U.S.'s fault that he's in there, and they should still push to get him out. But yet you have to take into account Russia's autonomy. They can make their own goddamn decisions just like the United States can. And if they didn't want to swap Paul Whelan for Brittney Griner, then, or if they didn't want to swap Paul Whelan for Victor Bout and Brittney Griner, and they only wanted to swap Victor Bout for Brittney Griner and leave Paul Whelan in jail, it's still worth getting Brittney Griner out of fucking Russia. Like, can we all just agree on that?